I'm thinking about my story from last month about Shlomo Mansour, who is the oldest hostage currently being held in Gaza. As a young child, survived the bloody Iraqi Farhud. He went on to live another 70 years in the kibbutz. Then at age 85, was grabbed in his pajamas and violently shoved to his car and driven into Gaza on October 7th. I get emotional when I think about this guy. I'm sorry. It's like, it really affected me. Like talking to his daughter and his grandson, like this buff kid who's like a personal trainer now, talking about how his Saba, his fondest memory is building a SpongeBob SquarePants doll out of wood with him in the workshop. It was just, it got you, you know? My name is Joel Chaushu, and I'm the Quebec correspondent for the Canadian Jewish News. I think these stories are worth telling. We can do that with your help. Visit the cjn.ca/donate to support our work. You'll get a quarterly magazine and a tax receipt to boot. What's not to love?
Hey everybody, we're the Benchwarmers. Welcome back to our podcast, our first one of 2025, but it's still 5785 in our hearts. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
Shana Tova to all of the normies out there. Normies being the Gentile and let's call it the English calendar, in like the way the Amish people say English, the Gregorian calendar. To all of you Gregorian calendarites, Happy New Year to you. You know, we don't, on the Benchwarmers podcast, don't recognize this heretic calendar, but we're happy that you know the rest of the world can turn it over. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, good. You know, back from some time off from around the holidays. We had some nice Hanukkah times, kids lighting the menorah, always a good time.
Always a good time.
I will say that this year, just because of happenstance, I didn't have a latke until the 8th day of Hanukkah, which just seems like bizarre. I didn't have any before either. Somehow, like I was just missed by latkes, and just a happenstance visit to no free ads, but lots of shine to Harvard Bakery on what happened to be the 8th day of Hanukkah. And they had 6 latkes left, and that was dinner for my family that night. So
I was about to say, those 6 latkes, did they last you one meal, or was there no miracle there?
Yeah, exactly. First of all, no latkes are escaping one meal. There's no leftover latkes as far as I'm concerned. They're all getting eaten at once. Didn't have any applesauce. Again, it was unplanned, but next Hanukkah, really got to work more on the potato side of things.
So you're an applesauce guy. Eh? I'm team sour cream.
Obviously, I'm team sour cream. Let's not go crazy here. Also, I find most latkes undersalted. So team salt, first of all. Yes, sour cream.
Salt your sour cream on anything else? I bet it would be delicious.
Yeah, I think it would. And I don't know why sour cream isn't saltier as a general rule of thumb. But I will say that I want applesauce like every third latke. You know what I mean? Like, or at least like every now and then on a bite, I want some applesauce just to mix things up a little bit.
Have you ever heard Winston Churchill's recipe for a martini?
What's that? Just wave it in the direction of Italy?
Yeah, that's how I feel about applesauce. Is that like I would like to let the sunlight shine through a jar of applesauce onto my latke, and that's too much applesauce.
I think that's right. It's like your joke about the Jew who builds the 2 synagogues on the deserted island.
Yeah.
Like serving latkes without both applesauce and sour cream. That's the problem. Eat just one. Have just sour cream if you want, but know that the applesauce is available. So
you can denigrate it.
Yeah, and also, if you foreground the applesauce, you can make latkes a Rosh Hashanah treat as well. There's nothing. No, there ain't no law says latkes aren't a holiday snack.
My McNugget dip of choice is honey, and you like to dip the fries in the honey too. So maybe a latke and honey with apple will be good. So this is a sports podcast where we discuss the happenings and goings on of Jewish professional and amateur athletes the world over.
All right, we'll move from matzo ball to baseball. It is the off season, but we do have an exciting interview coming up with Alan Hudis and Alex Bohansky, who is involved with Unity Through Sport, who are helping to bring the event that is happening next week, the Canadian premiere of Israel Swings for Gold, a documentary about Team Israel's baseball team at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. This is a sequel of sorts to Heading Home, which was the documentary about Israel at the
What's-
WBC in 2017. And I should say, Gabe, almost pretty full circle for us, because one of our first episodes.
It was our first episode, I believe.
Not our first, but
pilot.
one of our.
Not
one of our
first.
first.
Our first guest. Our first guest.
You're right. I think our first guest was Jonathan Mayo, who is one of the producers of Heading Home, The Tale of Team Israel. I see he's not listed as a producer on the most recent movie. I'm going to guess he was still involved in some way. I haven't seen the movie yet, and neither of you.
But we're going to the premiere. We're going to be some of the first Canadians to see it.
That's right. It's Tuesday, January 21st at 7:30 p.m. At the Leah Poslins Theater at the Prosserman JCC. We have shared. A stage we've shared. You can always count on Jews to have like 6 or 7 sponsors to each room.
The Leah Poslin Theater at the Prosserman JCC at the
Sherman campus.
At the Sherman. That's not the Sherman campus. The Sherman campus is the other one.
No.
The Sherman campus is on Rutherford.
I think that. Anyways, we'll
maybe one of them is the Sherman campus, one of them is the Berry and Honey Sherman campus, but I'm pretty sure the Sherman campus is on Rutherford. Anyways,
this is the one that's at Shepherd and Bathurst.
You ever hear the joke about that? I have a Jewish dog,
a Bathurst Shepherd,
part Shepherd, part Bathurst.
Yeah, Dan Shulman is leading the panel with Shai Davidi and 2 former Benchwarmers guests, Spencer Horowitz and Nate Fish. Check out the event. I'm sure the information is on our show page, wherever you're reading this.
It's going to be a blast. Come say hi.
Yeah, come say hi. Come to the event. Definitely worth your time. And we're really excited to watch the movie. And maybe we'll talk more about it afterwards. I mean, we know the story. Certainly we covered it at the time. But, the Tokyo Olympics were a very odd, specific event. It was the COVID games and there wasn't media in the way there was at previous Olympics.
Or fans.
So, my understanding is that the athletes are the ones sort of telling the story more than you might expect. So excited to see what they have to say. And obviously we're big Team Israel baseball supporters.
Yeah.
The next WBC is not too far away. It's in 2026. So also it's going to be a getting the team together year. I think going into 2026.
Also big supporters of Nate and Spencer as dudes.
Sure.
Excellent guys, excellent guests. We're going to ask when we see them next week about the group chat. We're going to see if we can find out any more information about the group chat. Where Nate is doing some Tai Chi to inspire the team and how Spencer is going to deal with Pittsburgh. No, we'll report back. Come say hi to us there. It's going to be a blast. But in the meantime, Jamie, before we get to our interview, I think we should sort of catch up on what's going on. There's a couple of big stories. We've seen the return of our Jewish hockey hero. Zach Hyman has started to pick up his season quite spectacularly, in addition to the Edmonton Oilers altogether, but not to be outdone. Quinn Hughes has returned from injury. And something I learned about Quinn Hughes recently, he has the highest usage rate of any player in the entire NHL. So there is no player on his team who touches the puck more than Quinn Hughes does on the Vancouver Canucks. He is, he's back from injury before I expected. He is on the way to at least another Norris Trophy nomination. There's a chance he wins it again if he, carries the team a little bit longer. But you could argue that in the traditionalist sense of MVP, nobody is more valuable to his team right now than the Jewish stud defenseman of the Vancouver Canucks.
And we should say he is going to be a centerpiece in a very Jewish team.
He plays defense. He plays defense.
He's very funny. He is going to be the brick wall that is part of the Team United States.
That's Jeremy Swayman. The wall is the goalie. Yeah, no, sorry.
And my lack of hockey knowledge is always coming out whenever I have to actually talk about it. Okay, there is a hockey thing coming up called the Four Nations Cup. I'm sure Gabe can tell me more about it.
And Joseph Wall didn't make the team.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah, yes.
But there are a number of Jews on the American team. Adam Fox, Jack and Quinn Hughes, and Jeremy Swayman all made the American team. Pretty exciting. I mean, that's 4 guys. They could share the ice at some point. Is Swayman totally. Like the number 1 goalie?
No, he's going to be the number 2. And the way he's been playing, maybe the number 3 goalie. We're not going to say that, but he might get like a preliminary round game just to keep him busy. My guess is Boston's going to want him to play to stay fresh.
And this is in lieu of an All-Star tournament.
It's in lieu of an All-Star game.
So the U.S. is going to be playing Canada, Sweden, and Finland quad national supremacy in terms of hockey. This is fun.
I think so.
I guess this is like a preview of the 2026 Olympics that'll have NHL players, God willing, and creek don't rise.
An equally
Team USA.
Jewish Team USA then, which might feature, and we should talk about next in the mold of Quinn Hughes. The World Junior Championships were, while we were away, and sort of the linchpin of Team USA, the breakout star of the tournament, was last year's 9th overall pick, Zeev Boehm.
Yeah, he had an assist on the final goal.
Yeah, an assist on the golden goal, and it was quite an assist. It was a up in the air outlet pass across the entire ice.
I think it was a 2-line pass, which I understand to be illegal. If that's no longer the case, you guys can tell when I last followed hockey.
That's true. Detail. You know what? I would say similar to, a lot of sports organizations pre-2006. Zeev Boehm would not have been allowed to complete that pass because a 2-line pass was allowed and Jews were not allowed in international hockey. That's not, but that's about how long ago they got rid of the 2-line pass.
Right.
So he has said many times he's modeled his game after Quinn Hughes. He is a puck dominant elite skater who after this tournament has now, he was picked 9th overall by Minnesota last year. That is now an absolute steal. It looks like it's going to be an absolute steal, before playing an NHL game. He's also, he was sort of the media star of the tournament. All this kid does is win. He's won his 2nd straight World Junior Championship. He won the NCAA championship last year. And throughout the tournament, he was showing off his Hebrew tattoo that is the dates in Hebrew of every championship he's won.
Wow.
So, after this tournament, he's going to add another tattoo to that. And who knows, maybe him and his brother Shai will both be in the NHL and both have a chance at making the 2026 Olympic team, at least if Zev is as good as he looks already next year.
Yeah. Just one last piece of hockey news, just to say a mazel tov on a deal to Zach Hyman as well for buying the Brantford Bulldogs, the OHL team.
Go Dogs.
Pretty exciting. I don't know if that means they're going to be moving back to Hamilton. I think they had been Hamilton when Hyman played for them, or he played for another Hamilton team. But
yes, the Hamilton Bulldogs, I think, were the OHL, not the OHL team, the AHL team.
I see.
But junior and minor league hockey sort of has like a pretty transient, transient roster. It's lucky that in Ontario there's probably, I don't know, 1,000 cities with a 5,000 person arena. So
definitely not 1,000 cities, but maybe 150. Okay.
But there's a ton, so
Sure.
They can keep moving around. So they were founded in 2015, the Brantford Bulldogs, and they have moved. They were in Belleville, and they moved to Hamilton, and then they moved to Brantford really recently. Really interestingly, he was previously owned by Michael Andlauer, who owns the national, who bought the Ottawa Senators last year.
Okay.
I think we believe Michael Andlauer is Jewish.
Probably not.
Probably not.
So.
No. Oh, well, he's
Based on the
France
name,
French.
I don't think so. Okay.
He's a France French. That's why I thought he could be. But he sold it to Zach. So I guess we're adding one more team to the Jewish roster. And a big muzzle tov to Zach. If you still listen to our show, Zach Hyman, congratulations.
Yeah.
Also want to remiss, speaking of Jewish All-Stars, we'd be remiss not to mention that Boston fierce goaltender Aaron Frankel is probably the best goalie in the PWHL right now.
Oh, wow, yeah.
We're about halfway through the season, 22 games in. She has a very, very respectable save percentage. And we know our previous, almost leading the league, the Brick Wall, they're calling her, which is a classic name. But on the Boston Fleet, not the Fierce, the Fleet, my mistake. She also went to Northeastern. She's from New York, like from that area. She was the college goalie of the year, the college female player of the year. And so like she is hitting her potential. 1 goal to the Worlds last year as Team USA's goalie. And she probably is, the best goalie in the world right now.
That's great.
And she's Jewish. Pretty freaking exciting.
That is very exciting, and I should say to our listeners, check out some PWHL. It's pretty easy to watch. If you are a sports fan, you almost certainly get TSN, and the games are all on TSN.
Yep.
I think maybe there might be I'm not sure in the States how easy it is, but I'm going to guess they're on your regional sports.
I think they're all on YouTube in the States. Like they're live streamed on the YouTube channel.
Even better, and they're often there's been a lot of weekend day games. I think I've seen it on TV around like a 2 p.m. Saturday game or something like that. So, as we are approaching the sort of sports doldrums between the end of football and the beginning of baseball, when there's just basketball and hockey on TV, watch some PWHL. I really encourage people to check it out. Support your local team if you're in a city that has it, and check out a game. Go in person.
It's pretty cool. They're currently on tour. They're like doing a barnstorming section of the season where they're not playing any home games. They're playing like around in Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton, like good hockey cities, with an eye to moving the league, to expanding the league. So, if the Guggenheim organization sees business potential, which we hope they do,
right,
we'll see some expansion.
Very exciting. Moving on to
a smaller, rounder ball.
Yeah, believe it or not, despite it being January and extremely cold where we are, it is the beginning of the golf season. Gabe, you and I participated in a fantasy golf draft yesterday because we're sickos.
It was nice to see how many Jews got drafted. Unfortunately, David Lipsky was not a top 50 pick in our league.
Yeah, just on the cusp. And we should, we have talked about the Jewish golfers who exist before, but just good to give a refresh to everyone.
We're going into the season with 5 Jewish golfers.
Yeah. And first among them, we should always say is Max Homa. Max had a bit of a down year in 2024, but he is on the cover of PGA Tour 2K25. That was just announced.
That'd be a good list. Can you think, other than Quinn Hughes, other than the Hughes brothers, can we think of other Jewish pro athletes who have been on video game covers?
Good question. We'll have to look into that at some point. But Max is on the cover along with Matt Fitzpatrick and I'm not sure. Eldrick Woods, is that? I'm not sure who that is. But so pretty elite company for Max on that cover. I think it's going to be a challenge to have a rebound 2025. He came so close last year at the Masters. He was tied for the lead on Sunday.
Yeah,
and came very close at Phoenix where he'd had success in the past. We'll see how he does with these early tournaments. The West Coast and Phoenix events, like that's where he's had some success in the past. So if he's
a big California guy, but also worth to mention, the second half of the season was sort of dominated. He's no longer Max. I think is no longer the highest ranked Jewish golfer on tour.
Because last year's rookie Max Grazerman just came out like a bullet. He had a number of runner-ups. Unfortunately, couldn't close on a few tournaments where it seemed like he was going to walk away with some hardware. But again, for a rookie season, I think he was one of the 2 or 3 best rookies last year. And this is going to be an exciting year to see how he does with the full tour schedule. Going to be in a lot of events, and hopefully there on Sunday in a lot of events as well. But yeah, Max Grazerman, I think it's just sort of like sky's the limit, obviously a young golfer.
He looks great. He also, had a good start. I think he finished in the top 30, in the tournament last week in the Sentry, not the Sentry, the Hawaiian Open, Sony Open.
Sony Open.
Yes. So with any luck, he's gonna, continue to hit that momentum in some more full field events.
Right.
And we'll see a lot of success from Max. Either of the Maxes, the Maxime. Hopefully one or two of the Maxime will do quite well.
Yeah, that's right. Rounding out the Jewish golfers, we have Daniel Berger. Daniel is coming back from a back injury still. He played some events in 2024, but I think continued to struggle with his form. The last end of the season had some more success. He did come in second at the RSM Classic at the end of 2024. He is almost back in the top 100, and I think probably will be with making a few more cuts.
He's still got status thanks to his he won, I think, the 2021 or 2022
the
Pebble
Schwab
Beach Open.
he won the St. Jude and he won the Charles Schwab.
Yeah. He missed a full year due to injury, so his eligibility is extended another year, which is good. So he's got some time.
Exactly. I mean, he was someone who, had previously been in the top 15, was having a really good run there, but what can you do? Everyone's only human, and the body can only cooperate so much. So We'll see if he can continue to rehab and come back. Along with him, as you said, David Lipsky, who has increasingly been at tour events, has a full card, and will continue to be hopefully making cuts, and he's within the top 150 in the world right now, which means again, like he should be competitive in some of these events. And had 2 top 10s towards the end of the year in the FedEx Cup, in 2 FedEx Cup events, which is pretty exciting.
Last but not least, we also have a golfer who's kept his tour card for the first time, which is Ben Silverman, who has been a grinder he's 37 years old, and now he's got full status on tour for the first time in his career. Yeah. So he's really done a great job continuing, getting further and further and further. Former Maccabi Golf championship, or Maccabi Golf winner, who, hopefully he can take some of this momentum and win a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, came in 4th at the Procore Championship last year, towards the end of the year, and has made every cut since then. So I believe he's playing this week, and again, should be a decent candidate to make some cuts in these early events, and hopefully get into some of the majors this year. Would be exciting to see him. Again, if he can get up on the money list to get into the U.S. Open or get into the PGA Championship would be pretty exciting. Maybe not the PGA Championship, but U.S. Open is definitely a possibility. And British Open, I suppose, although the cutoff is a little more selective. But exciting. Golf again, guys. Sports doldrum coming up. You got to prepare for the end of football season.
Somehow.
If you are a Toronto sports fan right now, I know the Leafs are good, but if you're a basketball fan like me, watching the local team is a little tricky. Just from a quality perspective. So you got to get something. You got to get something to fill your time in golf.
So
golf is always there.
We do have a basketball story to share. Which is the generations long association that the University of Michigan has with the Jewish people, the Jewish people. That's featuring our earlier mentioned Hughes brothers and Zach Hyman. The Book of Jews at Michigan got another name in it this year or this month, with sort of, I guess, former Yale Eli, Danny Wolf, blasting onto the scene. And boy, he seems like the real deal.
Yeah. So Danny is 7 feet tall. He's the tallest Jew that we've had.
As a people.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's the tallest one. Yeah.
He's our guy. He has represented Israel in the FIBA under 20, and he is now getting some shine as a potential NBA draft pick. Eric Musselman, is a coach who played against Michigan last week, I think said that he thinks he could be a first round pick. So who knows? I mean, there's a lot of basketball to happen between now and this summer when the NBA draft will happen. He is only 20 years old, so despite having played 2 years at Yale, he's in his junior year, but he's still young, like relatively young, and obviously that's something that NBA teams look for. But he is matching the competition of the Big Ten. Like he is averaging a double for a Michigan basketball team that is looking to compete and potentially make the Final Four.
Is Eric Musselman Jewish?
Eric Musselman is not Jewish. I've looked into this, I feel like, so many times, because every time I hear his name, I'm like, Eric Musselman, that's got to be Jewish, right?
That's got to be Jewish.
And then I look into it, and it's like, no, just turns out his last name is Musselman.
Musselman sounds like, he is Jewish, but his name does include shellfish. So that's a bad sign for the Judaism. You don't hear about a lot of like Squidbergs or lobster fields.
That's a good point. I just want to say one more thing about college basketball right now. In terms of the most recent rankings that have come out, Auburn is number 1, Duke is number 3, and Florida is number 5. all three of them are coached by Jews: Bruce
Yep.
Pearl, John Shayer, and Todd Golden, and that's pretty cool. It's been it's been a while since a Jewish coach has won a national championship. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's certainly been a while. And it would be very cool if one of those teams won. Obviously, again, March is 2 months away. No idea when how those teams will sort out, but I'd say Auburn and Duke are pretty solid favorites to make it pretty far. And excited to have Jewish leadership for those teams.
And Bruce Pearl, not yet been on the show, but a friend of the show, has facilitated some stuff for the show for us. So we're happy for that.
We had Leor Berman on a couple years ago, who was one of the players on his team. He was a sort of walk-on player that was included on the team, and his Judaism was a big part of it. It was written about the role that played on him, and we talked to him about that. So I think that having Jewish coaches is pretty influential. I mean, Bruce Pearl especially is an extremely outspoken supporter of Israel and Jewish causes as well. So pretty cool. Would love to get more involved with talking to some Jewish coaches in the future. There is like a Jewish college basketball coaching association that does some annual events. So we should have to try to get in touch with them and get involved with that. But pretty exciting stuff. I mean, not a lot of other Jewish NCAA men's basketball players that we know about at this moment, aside from Danny Wolf, but I'm sure we'll focus on some more
there's going to
in advance of the tournament.
Yeah. When the tournament happens, there's going to be some kid named Goldstein, and we're going to get some letters, and we'll figure it out for you. Yeah. Somebody jacking threes for Wofford or something is, we're gonna find a yet unknown Jewish player.
I hate to say it, but college basketball fandom has really been one of the casualties of like having a full-time job and multiple children and a life. Because like when I was a teenager, like watching a 9 p.m. Wednesday basketball game,
it was easy. It was great
between like two Mountain West teams was like easily done. And now it's like I'm sorry. I was like, I keep some eyes on it. I try to watch a little college basketball on Saturday afternoons. But aside from that, it's like, something had to go.
Yes.
And unfortunately, caused by, I still watch the tournament, obviously dedicatedly. I'll watch the end of season tournaments, but it's hard to commit. Like, again, when I was a teenager, the 15 to 20 hours a week of watching and reading about college basketball that I did, unfortunately it's gone by the wayside. So
of course.
What can you do?
So moving on from college basketball, it's the football playoffs. And
yes,
while we like football, we've been following sort of the Jews in the NFL closely, your Greg's Joseph and your Anthony's Fursker and so on and so forth. Last night we saw the elimination of the Minnesota Vikings from the playoffs. There's, I think, 8 teams left. And it seems that not only are there no Jewish players left, but there's somehow also no Jewish owners left.
Oh, wow. That is interesting.
Yeah, surprise. Which is not a thing you see very often. Normally you get a couple. We've got Terry Pegula and Steve Bisciotti, they're left, who are, ethnic white people. But otherwise, you've got the Fords and the Hunts and, some of these classic American teams, the Kroenikes.
Stan Kroenke, often thought to be Jewish, but is not.
Often thought to be Jewish, but not.
You should say Anthony Firkser, I believe, is on the Chiefs practice squad, which is like, okay if there's a big injury to Travis Kelce or Noah Fant, I suppose he could. Sorry, Noah Fant's not the right person.
Even to commit. So actually, there is one Jewish owner left, which is Josh Harris, the new owner of the Washington Commanders.
Okay,
he is Jewish. According to his Wikipedia, he had his bar mitzvah at the Washington Hebrew congregation.
And Jeffrey Lurie as well, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yes, Jeffrey Lurie. Okay, that's good to know. So we got two. We got two of 8.
Yeah, 2 guys in the NFC East. Well, that's half the bracket in the NFC, so it's possible to have a Jewish Super Bowl winning owner. Which, again, as I've said before, if that's the reason you're going to cheer for a team, I find that extremely odd. But nevertheless, we celebrate it.
Well, There are no Jewish players, and I know, Jamie, you're a big Detroit Lions fan. They
Yes.
actually have a couple of ripe Mike Jacobs All-Stars. Hit it, Mike.
Mike Jacobs All-Star.
For a long time, I thought that left guard Kevin Zeitler was Jewish. I think a lot of people see his name and think, oh, that guy must be Jewish. He's not.
Right.
Went to Lutheran and Catholic high school. Similarly, sort of second or third string linebacker Ben Neiman, not Jewish. It's
I think
Neiman
both are
with two N's.
Both our kicker and punter, Jake Bates and Jack Fox, sound like they could be Jews. It's sort of like, were those anglicized names.
There's a good number of them.
Something.
I did not think that Lions player Christian Mahogany was Jewish.
No.
I'm quite amazed that his name exists.
Josh Pascal also, has a bit of tribe to it. I think all Joshes are Jewish, and it seems odd.
Like all dogs are boys and all cats are girls. All Joshes are Jewish.
So that's pretty good, and it's certainly a team with a large Jewish fan base. So Jewish Lions fans, I'm with you. We're hopefully gonna win the Super Bowl.
Definitely. Is that so? That's actually a good question. Of the 8 teams left, who would have the largest Jewish fan base? Do you think it's Washington?
That's a good question. I'm gonna guess the Eagles.
Just because Philadelphia or the Rams.
No, because the Rams don't have so much local fan base. Like if you're a Jew from LA, I doubt you're a Rams.
You probably
fan.
watch USC football.
You might also support the Rams, but I would doubt that they're your first team. And St. Louis obviously has some Jews, obviously, but not
obviously
a huge amount. So I would guess probably the Eagles or the Commanders.
I think Texans and Chiefs, you can really write those both off. We're not a flyover state, people. I know Houston. I have been to the Houston Jewish Museum. It does exist.
And I'm sure Baltimore has a sizable Jewish fan base as well.
Oh, that's true. Spencer Horwitz, a Baltimore Jew. They've actually got a lot of, though I think Baltimore might tend to be more of an Orthodox place.
Mm-hmm.
Though that's a good question. So I actually think you're right. I think I would go with the Ravens, probably have the largest Jewish population. And maybe. Like Jews in Western New York. It's probably, that's more of like a Polish area.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or Irish.
I mean, obviously there are Jews in Buffalo. There's Jews in Toronto that support the Bills. Obviously,
my mom and her brothers.
Yeah. So there's Jewish fan bases for all of them. We'll have to start a Bills Bills Mossad to compete with Bills Mafia.
Bills Mossad is good, or a Bills Murder Inc. When we get closer, we'll do another episode probably before the Super Bowl, and we'll break it down which Jewish team to watch or which team is the best Jews to watch. But before that, should we get to our interview and get back to the round ball?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get back to the seam heads for the seam heads in the audience.
Let's go to our interview now and talk about Team Israel and unity through sport.
I don't live in a very, very Jewish world. What I see as my role at the CJN, in part, is having this bigger picture of how society at large sees Jews and being kind of prepared to understand it. So on October 16th, 2023, I wrote a column really just asking, where would a Jew not be considered a settler? This was at a moment where Jews were being accused not only of being settlers anywhere in Israel, not specifically in the West Bank, and also anywhere in North America, and basically just looking at this question of where on earth is there a consensus that Jews can live and that that's fine. Sometimes the answer isn't a place, but it is rather that there are people who think Jews should not live. My name is Phoebe Maltz-Bovey, and I'm the opinion editor at the Canadian Jewish News. To support this kind of work, make a tax-deductible donation at thecjn.ca/donate.
Well, we're very happy to be joined tonight by Alex Wojhanski and Alan Hudis, two people who are helping to put on an event taking place in Toronto next week, the screening of the movie Israel Swings for Gold. Gentlemen, it's so nice to be joined by you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really
tell me a little bit about the event that's happening. It's going on to Leah Poslen's Theater at the Prosman Y. what is the movie and why is it important? Why should people go see it?
We wanted to put this together because we didn't see this film coming to Toronto in Canada so far, plain and simple. I had known about the second film, the sequel to Heading Home. Had heard about when it came out back in March of 2023, right at the same time as the 2023 World Baseball Classic. And ever since then, had just been sort of tracking, where it was going and the crowds that it was bringing in, and thought about, wanting to see it here in Toronto, and didn't see that getting put together. And so I thought, well, here's a great opportunity to, bring the Jewish community together with some of our allies and things like that, to put this movie on. And why is it important? I mean, it's such an inspiring journey that this team goes on, right? We know what they did at the 2017 WBC, and just how they got everybody's attention going on that run. And here you had a chance to see the next sort of wave of the story where they got to take it up a notch. The players obviously have to, make Aliyah on paper, and get citizenship to play in the Olympics, and really, forge that connection even further with Israel. So we just thought it was an inspiring story for the community to see, especially with the world that we're currently living in post October 7th.
Alex, can you talk to us a little bit about Unity Through Sport? What's the organization? How did you come to found it? And what sort of things are you guys doing aside from this event?
Got involved in it a couple of years ago. It was really just more conceptual. Happened to be very closely connected to and manage Zach Hyman, and been involved with Jewish sports now for well over 25 years, and have a long history in the Jewish sporting community, especially in the Greater Toronto area, but frankly across North America as well, in a lot of different movements. So this was an easy one for me. There was an uptick of anti-Semitism in 19, and got together with a couple of professional Jewish athletes, including Zach and some others from different sports, including other executives as well, and came up with a loose concept of doing something like an Athletes Against Anti-Semitism type of thing. And while that was being discussed, we had quite a few non-Jewish allies that we were speaking to about this potential initiative, and that wanted to get involved and wanted to tell their own story. And so we pivoted and started to call it Unity Through Sport, which would encompass more than just the Jewish community, but certainly would be led by the Jewish community, and that would be a lot of the stories that we'd be telling. We certainly wanted allies that would understand that anti-Semitism is a major issue and only growing. Little did we know what would come, obviously October 7th and following that. But that was worked on for quite a while. Obviously, there were some major things in the world that took place that certainly slowed down some of the work that we wanted to do and some of the initiatives that we had, be it the Stop for Change in the United States and frankly around the world, and then the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and then of course culminating with October 7th. But we've been doing all kinds of different things, whether it's virtual, in-person activities. We've had stuff across North America. Our hub and our home is in Toronto, but we really are more of a continent-wide type of initiative, really combating anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, but also focusing on going after hate in all of its forms. And, we're very fortunate that we've picked up about now 77 different professional sports ambassadors. Wow. A lot of big names, both who are current athletes, former athletes, Hall of Famers, executives, limited partners, agents, sports media, and several of these guys are actually going to be at this event. Their personal contacts, they become friends, and all fighting the great fight. And so that's how it came to be.
So I want to ask you just about that. As you mentioned this great roster, to pardon the pun, of athletes and partners. How do you find them? How do you decide, I think this person is going to be a good candidate to represent our organization and to spread our message? And then, do they take convincing? Is it an easy pitch? How does that process work?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of a few different things. So like I said, I've been not just in the Jewish communal side of things growing, whether it's the Maccabi movement or many other things that I've been involved in over the years, or obviously connected to Zach and his family for many, many years now. But, I have been in this business on multiple levels for a long time and had a lot of personal relationships that already existed. So some of those people were easy, low-hanging fruit. Connect with them, speak to them, say, hey, this is our story. You know me, you support me. You know that this is a major issue for me. Would you love to get, behind me and support? And then, and several of our people on our committee have the same story. They may not be as in-depth on the sports side, per se as I am, but, they got people that they knew would support them from all different levels of the professional sports and amateur sporting community. And so that was kind of the first step. Then the next step was some active recruiting. And sometimes it does take a little bit of arm twisting, but you gotta know what buttons to press. And you also have to be able to let, especially non-Jewish allies, tell their story. And they understand that, the Jewish community in many cases is one that has probably the oldest form of persecution and the oldest form of hatred in the history of the world. And many of them understand that, and they want to be supportive. They just sometimes want to do things, sort of their own way. And we don't make them, we don't make these things political. We don't harp on certain scenarios all the time. We let them kind of tell their story and let them live the life they want to live and tell the story they want to tell. And with the understanding that this is, as I said earlier, a Jewish community-led initiative. It's led by, most of us at this point in terms of the committee and myself in terms of the leadership group, and our vice chair, Jean Megan, are, of the Jewish background. But we do have quite a few non-Jews as well as part of the committee, as part of the advisory board, as part of supporters and ambassadors. And like I said, they're able to tell their story. And as long as they're supportive, there's none of the nonsense. We don't go into anti-Zionism stuff. We don't go into this whole oppressor versus oppressed thing. It's really more along the lines of bringing people together and unifying them. Hence the name Unity Through Sport. It's very different than some of the stuff that you see out there. And also very much so the Jews are included. There's a lot of organizations, sadly, that are out there that don't include Jews and will not include Jews. And that was part of the reason why we had to do this on our own versus joining somebody else.
I think, it's sort of critical to have that mix because we sort of assume that Jewish athletes are going to be against anti-Semitism. That doesn't take much convincing, and hopefully that they're going to be outspoken voices. But there's a certain special heartening extra thing when somebody like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is incredible outspoken advocate against anti-Semitism and has been honored as such. But he's written about it and things like that. You don't expect necessarily that ally. But it's great to see that. So I assume that's been I can only imagine that's been part of the targeting. It's just, not just who are the Jews, but who else is there who can sign up on this and speak out on this in their sports or in their communities.
100%. And frankly, to be honest with you, the most important messaging is probably from the non-Jewish sports allies. That's why it's, you see the amount of publicity and how people are so proud and supportive of a guy like Floyd Mayweather. Here's arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest boxer of all time. And you see what he's doing. And it's not just in support of Israel, it's in support of the Jewish community, whether it's in Miami or New York or many other places. And he's just one example of many. And those are the types of allies you need because, frankly, we live in a world of influencers and eyeballs. And that's why organizations like ours and initiatives like this are so important.
I find it very fascinating, and part of our, years doing this podcast, especially with Jewish athletes, you learn very quickly or get to learn very quickly, like who cares, and who, identity matters in a way that they are proud to share and uplift both their community and that of others. And this seems like a really good, I don't want to say resource, but a good vector for that.
Yeah,
resource too.
A resource and vector. I think that those are two, strong ways to say it. We try and provide that infrastructure and that resource for them if they need it. We work on educational campaigns. We do lots of different things. And, we're certainly not in our infancy, but we're still growing. I mean, we're still kind of in our toddler stage. And if you ask most people about the name, they probably necessarily haven't heard of it. They may have heard of the concept. They may have, know quite a few people in it. They may have heard it from different people. But, we're certainly not a household name. We're not one of the big boys out there. But we're gaining steam, and in the world that we're in today, which, as Alan articulated earlier, is a very scary one, especially here in Toronto and here in Canada. Sometimes it kind of boggles the mind where Toronto's become almost unrecognizable compared to certainly what many of us grew up in, and so we do need that support, and we need that support from a lot of different communities. And again, going back to the ally model, influencers, celebrities, athletes, entertainers are, they've got the big followings. And if they can spread that message and they can get those eyeballs out there, that makes our job easier and hopefully make things a little easier for our community as we move forward.
Sure. Keeping it local in terms of the event that's coming up, two of the broadcasters who are going to be part of the event are Dan Schulman and Shai Davidi. I'd say two of our more prominent Jewish sports media personalities.
Not a lot of people
baseball
are debating their Judaism, I don't think.
I think that's great to get those guys involved in this documentary. I take it you didn't have to twist their arms too hard to show up for the Jewish community for this event, especially given that it's a relatively low point in the baseball off season.
Yeah, for sure. It was, they were in right from day one, and we were thrilled to have them. They're great at what they do, and they're great for promoting the community, and we really just wanted to have them be part of it because they do their job so well, and we knew that they would be great assets to us for this.
And they'll be joined by two former Menschwarmers guests.
We've had both the players on the pod.
Nate Fish and Spencer Horwitz. Spencer, sadly, no longer with the Toronto Blue Jays, but going to be getting some shine in Pittsburgh this year. Hopefully he gets a lot of playing time down there, and glad he's going to be able to say goodbye to Toronto at this event next week. I think that'll be great.
So I have a quick question. I don't want to spoil the movie necessarily per se, but the previous film, Heading Home, ends on a really positive, the future can hold much note. It's not a spoiler. Most people know how the thing goes to say that, that success at that first World Baseball Classic wasn't repeated immediately. So as sort of we talk about this film, where do you guys see Israel baseball going as sort of both a cultural movement and, with this movie and sports wise?
I think it's a really great chance for us to be able to work with them and show the movie. Obviously they have been putting this film out all over North America. And this being the Canadian premiere, being something that we're really excited about. What I do know is that they, just from chatting with them and understanding kind of a little bit about, their mission is because Nate Fish is now, of course, the CEO of Israel Baseball Americas.
Right.
And so that's part of a bit of their wider strategy now to have more outreach within North America as they build these teams. So, it's events like this, but they also are working on other events, within different communities, where there is a strong Jewish population. And that obviously have baseball, be prominent within their city.
Let me just elaborate on that really quick too. There's also the, not just in terms of the actual events themselves and the camps and the clinics and any of the other things they're doing, but it's not all that difficult whether you're around Toronto or in other places to see people rocking these hats or these jerseys. So there's a branding component as well that has a lot of sizzle behind this thing, especially that hat. Like people love the hat.
People ask us where they can get the hat, and I don't even have one. I don't know, but we get the letters.
There you go. So that's a big part of it. And so again, we're in that situation and in that time where if people think something is cool and they want to rock it and they want to wear it, they're gonna get behind something like that. And so that's a part of it too. The branding is a big deal, and this hopefully continues to help their journey on branding, and at the same time obviously allows a community engagement and an opportunity for people to come together, and as we said, many of our non-Jewish allies that will be at this event from around the city, which is exciting for us as well.
See, I hope that this might expand into different sports as well. And Alex, you can be a part of this if you can convince Zach to captain a Team Israel hockey team. And
if we were allowed, if the rules were easier. I mean, I was involved with Israel ice hockey for 2 years to count. I was on the board and participated with a lot of different things in terms of Israel ice hockey. The challenge was that the IHF made it near next to impossible, and you have to kind of give up your Hockey Canada or Hockey USA connection and play kind of sort of quote unquote in Israel. And let's be blatantly honest, the IHF and many of these organizations don't make it easy for anything to do with Israel. So they'll be watching Israel like a hawk. So it's not like you can kind of slide under the radar if you're a AAA or a Junior A player, unfortunately. But I wish.
So Zach, you're saying Zach would like have to go join, the Hapoel Tel Aviv hockey team in order to play in Israel.
Exactly. Listen, maybe we can convince him after it's all said and done. I mean, I know we've, his father Stu and I and Zach and even some of the brothers, like we've joked around, kind of somewhat facetiously that maybe
we're going to get enough people on the double IHF board to change those laws and allow for a team of Jewish Americans and Canadians to.
I was going to say, let's get him a cup. He can win the cup, and then the NHL. You've hit the peak. Then it's time to go.
We're hoping for this year. We're hoping that when we have our golf tournament. That hopefully we see a nice piece of silver, standing there as we were hoping very much after last year, which unfortunately Game 7 didn't go our way, and I was at the rink. I was with the family, and that was not overly pleasant. So hopefully we'll have a more pleasant experience this time around.
Definitely. Well, let's leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. And we hope to see our listeners there too. Find me and Gabe, find Alex and Alan to say hi, and come and support the event. It's going to be a lot of fun, great panel, very exciting movie. So we'll have all the details in the show notes and information about how to buy tickets. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Well, thanks again to Alan and Alex for joining us. I am really looking forward to that event next week. Always nice
it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, always nice to drive up Bathurst Street at 7 p.m. when there's no traffic. Instead of every other moment when there's lots of traffic.
when there is traffic. See, the problem with Bathurst is that you've got people turning left in the middle lane and the bus in the right lane.
I have a take about traffic on Bathurst, but I'm not going to air it on a Jewish sports podcast because it might be discriminatory against a certain sect of Jews who happen to live nearby.
Wow. But then drive on a Saturday.
I do. Well, I do.
Yeah.
That's the only time I will.
Interestingly, I mean, here's a story about my non-Jewish wife. When she was 16 and her parents taught her to drive, they would go to Bathurst and Lawrence on Saturday.
That's really funny.
That's where my wife learned how to drive because they knew it would be quiet and they knew that not being Jewish.
We're really laying on some Toronto content here.
Yeah, for those of you that know, Bathurst and Lawrence is a neighborhood that probably has more yeshivas than grocery stores.
Yeah. And I will add to our Toronto Jewish content by saying that on New Year's Eve, I went to Lawrence Plaza to pick something up for the Metro. And then I went to Bagel World. And afterwards, I went to City Fish. And in doing so, I went to the 3 worst parking lots.
They're all 3 of the worst parking lots in the city, no question.
By far, like unbelievably bad. It's a design issue more than a user issue.
Yeah,
but the users don't help.
No, and I would also nominate the Rutherford Avenue Whatabayel. That place is a bloodbath as well. But it's unfortunate that our cultural institutions for food, also have atrocious parking.
You know what? Anti-Semites are focused too much on just factually incorrect stereotypes. They should be focused on actual ones, like Jews, not their partners.
There's a Rachel Bloom comedy bit where it's a meeting of the protocols of the elders of Zion, and they can't get the meeting started because they're too busy arguing what the rules for street parking are in the outside of the hall in which they're having the meeting.
There you
go. Where they can and cannot park, and if they should move their cars. That is where the bit goes. It's quite good. But before we go, I want to do a quick Mazel Tov shout out. The LPGA season's still a few weeks away. We're not getting started yet, but I guess the only Jewish golfer currently on the LPGA Tour. Elizabeth Sokol got married a couple of weeks ago. And it was very funny. I follow a lot of LPGA Tour players on social media who are often either the country club set or their first language is not English.
Sure.
They come from East Asia and have not met a lot of Jewish people. So like the reactions of this group of people on social media to a Jewish wedding was pretty great. A lot of pictures of chairs with like, OMG, what is happening going on? So it's nice to see that, our cultural traditions still have the power to charm other people. And a mazel tov to Elizabeth as well.
That's great. Congratulations to her. Wishing her success in a 2025 season where, she
no wins. She had a win in 2023. Didn't have a win in 2024, but hopefully she gets another one. She still got some eligibility because she had a win. A Northwestern grad. Love to see our other cultural institutions getting, Northwestern University getting visited. But we'll see if she, if she gets another W this year.
Yeah. So look out for her. And again, I encourage everyone to watch some LPGA. It is on the weekends. It is on when you need some time to fill. In your sports viewing world, again, got to prepare for a post NFL viewing.
Oh, absolutely.
Sports fans.
One other charming thing, I wrote this down about her wedding because I Googled it. She was registered at Judaica.com.
Nice.
As part of her wedding registry.
Very cool.
Got married in Chicago where she's from. And her husband is too. So very cool.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining us. And we hope we will see you next week at the Israel Swings for Gold event. And feel free to come up to us if you can find us and kibitz a little bit about Jews and sports. As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. Our podcast and articles and everything else can be found on the Canadian Jewish News' new and revamped website, thecjn.ca. The same old address, but a brand new look. And follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers for all the latest news in Jews and sports. Thanks for joining us. We'll be with you next time.
I'm Michael Weisdorf, Chief Executive Officer with the Canadian Jewish News. We've put a lot of effort into trying to engage with the younger audience and the younger demographic, those who haven't really engaged with the CJN recently. They don't realize we're back. They say, I absolutely remember reading this on my Booby and Zadie's dining room table or my parents' den. We're trying to bring the Canadian Jewish News into the 21st century. The Canadian Jewish News is a not-for-profit organization, and we're also a registered journalism organization with the CRA. So we can provide tax receipts for donations at any level. To help support the Canadian Jewish News and help us continue providing free, high-quality journalism for the Jewish community, you can support us at thecjn.ca/donate. Thank you for your support and for being a part of our journey.